The body is your temple. Keep it pure and clean for the soul to reside in. BKS Iyengar. No one tells you this, but alcohol has always had a hidden spiritual cost. While modern culture celebrates it, clinking glasses, numbing weekends, spiritual festivals laced with wine, ancient wisdom warns otherwise. There's a reason nearly every mystical tradition on earth, from Eastern to indigenous to Hermetic, approached alcohol not casually, but cautiously. Because alcohol doesn't just affect your body, it affects your aura. When you drink, you're not just relaxing, you're diluting the energetic shield that protects your soul. Your aura becomes porous, like Swiss cheese, open, vulnerable, exposed. Spirits, not just metaphorically, but energetically, can attach to you more easily in that state. That's why some cultures still call alcohol by its ancient name, spirits. Think about that. It's not just poetic, it's literal. The moment your consciousness dims, something else can step in. Not in a horror movie sense, but energetically, emotionally, psychologically. You laugh, you dance, but you wake up empty, or anxious, or heavy, as if something came through and borrowed your body for a night and left it hollow by morning. Alcohol creates a temporary break between the soul and the body, a gap. And in that gap, distortion lives. That's why many people report making choices under the influence they'd never make sober, because in that state, your moral compass is off. Your intuition is off. You're not fully home in your body, and something else starts driving the car. Maybe not a demon, but a darker version of you, a fragmented, numbed, reactive self. The part that wants escape more than it wants evolution. And here's the deeper part nobody talks about. Alcohol is one of the most spiritually leaky substances you can consume. It opens the lower chakras while dulling the higher ones. It grounds you in sensation, but disconnects you from vision. That's why it feels freeing in the moment, but spiritually expensive in the long run. This isn't judgment, it's awareness. If you've used alcohol to numb your pain, you're not weak, you're human. But the more you awaken, the less appealing unconsciousness becomes. You start to see the price of temporary comfort. You start to crave clarity instead of confusion. And you start to remember, your body isn't a trash bin for unresolved emotions. It's a vessel, a transmitter, a temple. And every time you poison the temple, the signal between you and the divine weakens. You're not being punished. You're being tuned. Spirit speaks through subtlety, through synchronicity, energy, intuition, dreams. And when you flood the system with synthetic emotion, those signals go silent. The line gets staticky. You don't feel off just because of a hangover. You feel off because you've momentarily severed the thread. If you're here, watching this, it means something in you remembers. A deeper part. The part that knows alcohol has always blurred your magic, and you're not crazy for wanting more. You're remembering how to come home to yourself. If this message resonates, consider subscribing and tapping the bell so you don't miss the next download. But here's what makes alcohol even more deceptive. It doesn't always feel bad. Sometimes it feels euphoric, social, light, like you're finally free from the weight you've been carrying. And that illusion, that brief moment of false liberation, is exactly what keeps so many spiritual beings trapped in the cycle. Because here's the truth, alcohol doesn't give you freedom. It gives you amnesia. You forget your pain, but you also forget your power. You forget your anxiety, but you also forget your alignment. You numb your loneliness, but you also numb your divine connection. That's not freedom, that's sedation. And sedation is how empires are built. When a society is disconnected from the divine, when people can't feel their own soul, they become easier to control, easier to distract, easier to market to, manipulate, mold. That's why in ancient priesthoods, only the initiated were allowed to alter their consciousness, and always through ritual, intention, and discipline. Alcohol has become a substitute for spiritual ecstasy, but real ecstasy doesn't come from a bottle. It comes from coherence, from when your heart, mind, body, and soul are aligned, from when you can sit with your emotions, raw, unfiltered, and still choose love. Modern culture teaches us to escape, but spiritual awakening teaches us to face. And alcohol is the great unfacer. It turns your gaze outward. It dulls your inner mirror. You forget the root, so you don't have to feel the rot. But healing requires remembering, not just memories, but energy. Remembering who you are when you're fully present. Remembering what your body feels like when it's clear. Remembering the strength of sober clarity, the kind that doesn't need a crutch. Some of the most powerful spiritual breakthroughs come after periods of deep sobriety, not just physical sobriety, but energetic sobriety, where you unplug from all distractions and truly witness yourself. It's not easy. When you stop drinking, everything that was hidden under the surface comes up. Old emotions, buried trauma, restless thoughts. Your ego screams, your mind resists. But that's when the real work begins, because what you resist is where your power hides. If you can sit through the discomfort, you begin to access dimensions of yourself you've never touched before. You start to receive dreams that aren't chaotic. You hear intuitive whispers instead of static. You enter altered states, not through chemicals, but through consciousness. Breath work, fasting, silence, prayer, presence. These become your wine. These become your ecstasy. And the best part? No hangover, no regret, just clarity, just strength, just connection. Your spiritual path doesn't demand perfection, but it does ask for presence. And every time you choose presence over sedation, you reclaim a part of your power. There's a reason so many ancient initiates lived in silence, fasted for weeks, and purified their bodies before receiving spiritual teachings. They weren't being extreme. They were creating a vessel strong enough to hold truth, a body clean enough to feel divine frequency without distortion. Because real spiritual insight isn't always gentle. It's lightning. It's fire. It shatters illusions and rewires your nervous system. You can't be half asleep and expect to download divine instruction. You must be awake, fully, grounded, clear, aligned, and alcohol muddies that clarity, not just in the moment, but for days, sometimes weeks, depending on how sensitive your system is. Your dreams get strange, your mood shifts, your ability to receive subtle guidance gets dimmed. And if you're on a path of awakening, even small detours like this become obvious. You feel the cost, not in shame, but in signal loss. You notice that your meditations aren't as deep, that your intuition is muffled, that your energy feels off. Not dark, just displaced, like a radio slightly out of tune. But the beauty is, you can always retune. Your body wants to return to balance. Your soul is always whispering. And when you give it a clear channel, when you remove the substances, the noise, the distractions, it begins to speak louder. First in dreams, then in synchronicities, then in direct knowing. And from that place, life transforms. Because alcohol doesn't just alter you, it alters what you attract. In a dimmed state, you attract chaos, leaky people, confused situations, spiritual fog. In a clear state, you magnetize truth, clarity, right people, right timing. That's not magic, that's resonance. Your vibration sets the tone for your reality. So ask yourself, what tone are you setting when you drink? This message isn't here to shame you, it's here to remind you that your soul didn't come here to escape, it came here to embody. And alcohol, while seductive, is one of the oldest traps to delay that embodiment, but now you know. And knowing is the beginning of freedom. The choice is always yours, to numb or to feel, to float or to root, to sedate or to awaken. You're not broken if you've used alcohol to cope, but you are powerful if you can now choose differently, to meet your emotions with presence, to honor your vessel, to walk the path of clarity, even when it's hard, because clarity is the true high, and the deeper your clarity, the louder spirit becomes. You're not here to drown your light, you're here to embody it. So what would your life look like if you stayed fully present, no matter what?